This technique is a very interesting technique because it allows me to have multiple works, but each work evolves and the next one is never the same as the preceding one. Also, the new technique that I'm using on plexiglass gives me much more freedom. I take the plexiglass and engrave the design with the machine, and then I ink the plexiglass, and the ink that I use is a very special ink made by Charbonnel. They have been making inks since the 19th century. I mix the ink with the grease to fill in the lines of the plexi. The plexiglass gives me much more softness, and the drawing is much more direct, and it gives me much greater freedom. When I ink that plexi, I can use different techniques. Sometimes I wipe ink not in the grooves but over the plexi in certain spots to create different effects, very much like Rembrandt did when he was palming some of his etching plates. Then we are going to print that on the wet paper, already painted with acrylic. And so each one of them is in fact different. When I'm printing, I can feel the pressure with my hand. If it is not strong enough, I adjust it. And just again, a question of being used to the press and knowing it very well. It's always very interesting to know what's going to come out because you never know in advance. Now I have my figure. I will work on it differently. Here it is. At this point, at this stage of the game, there's going to be a manual intervention. I'm going to dress up the figure because it's a little bit like a skeleton. Now, would you prefer a red short or a yellow short? Red. Okay, let's do it red. And what about the sweatshirt? Should it be yellow? Yes. And for the rest, I'm using black, but the black is never very beautiful, so I always add some blue in my black. It makes it softer, and it makes it feel almost like velvet. I'm often listening to music for company because the work of an artist is a very solitary work. You need to feel connected with the world. The work is starting to take shape. We will leave it alone for quite a while until it's totally dry so we can go to the next step. Now I have to give it the patina of time. I use all kinds of different instruments. I use my hands as well. I need to torture it in order to make it older, to give the feeling that time has passed and that this is an ancient fragment of a fresco that has just been discovered. The next step is to put some glue on it, to attach it. And that step is a very important one because it needs to be attached properly. And I use a very strong glue that is used for textiles. Now I'm ready to put it on the paper and pass it to the press to attach the two together. It will just bind them together forever. And on that plate of plexiglass, I've put this beautiful sand, the sand that is used to make the most expensive glass. It's very hard, it has a marvelous feel to it. And I've created on this plate that beautiful texture, thinking about where each part is going to go. Then I put that through the press. Now that the paper has been glued onto it, the whole thing will go into the press, and then that texture will be imprinted on that piece of paper. And for the last step of the process, I'm going to use an ink that is very diluted. It will be interesting to see how this layer will make everything change and make the textures and the design stand out. You use that very thin layer, and then with the blotter you are taking out most of it, so only part of it stays and gives that ancient look to the design. Look at it. It looks like the diver of Pompeii. But what I like about the whole process is just how rich these textures are, how many possibilities that technique gives you, and how each work, each etching is unique.